So dimensional analysis is essentially when you convert one unit into another. So we're going to basically just be converting units. That's all it is. So for instance, we might want to convert, say, inches to feet, or centimeters to kilometers, or pounds to kilograms. So it is important to note that when you're doing this, you have to convert a unit to the same type of units. For instance, it needs to be distance to distance. Like you can convert one distance measurement to another distance measurement, or you convert one mass unit to a different mass unit. You cannot do something like converting a mass unit to a distance unit. That just doesn't work. The units can have multiple things. So for instance, speed, you can convert speed to another speed, but that might end up being like meters per second to kilometers per hour, right? So you can convert them as long as they're speed, even though there's two things there. So let's take a look at a couple. So here we have 423 inches to miles. So we've got essentially to figure out how to get inches into miles. So the way you do this, the way you approach this, is you start by converting, figuring out what the conversions are 2 inches into miles. Now that might be a little bit confusing because usually you don't convert inches to miles. Usually inches is going to go to feet. So let's do that first. So inches to feet, we know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. And then feet typically go into miles. That's fairly common. So we know, or you might know, that 5,280 feet are in a mile. Okay. So now we're going to do our dimensional analysis. So to do the dimensional analysis, you're going to make a railroad track, is what the chemistry teachers call it. You can call it whatever you want to. And what you do is you start by putting your original number in the top left. And then what we're doing is we're working to the right. And what we want to end up having is the final unit in the top right corner. So we're going to go from inches to feet first. So whatever is up here, you're going to bring down. So 423 inches, we're going to convert inches first. So there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So the inches goes down. Notice how the inches will cancel. And then we're going to convert feet into miles. So there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So again, we're starting with our unit up in the top right, and we're ending with the unit that we want in the top right. So start with the unit in the top left that you are beginning with, and end with the unit in the top right that you want to end with. So now what you do is you're going to multiply across the top. So I realize that's 1 times 1, but 423 for the sake of argument times 1 times 1, and then we're going to divide that by 12 times 5,280. Now if you're using a calculator, make sure you put the denominator in parentheses, otherwise it's going to multiply then divide, and that's never what you want, or divide then multiply. So I'm going to type this in, 423 divided by 12 times 5,280, and we get there are 423, this gives us 0.0067 miles. So we know that 423 inches is 0.0067 miles. Now that should make some level of sense to you, because 423 inches, it's a lot of inches, but it's not that many. I mean, it's like 25 feet or something like that. It's not very big. It's a measurement that you would be able to use like for the length of a classroom or something. So it makes sense that it's not much of a mile. So that's how you would do inches to miles. Let's take a look at a different unit. So now we're going to look at kilograms to pounds. So sometimes we'll have to convert pounds to kilograms. This may or may not be a unit you know, but one kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. So if you wanted to do this, you would need to know that conversion. So again, we're going to start by doing our little train tracks. This one's not going to be as long because there's not as much stuff to go through. But again, we're starting by putting the unit that we are beginning with in the top left, and then we're going to put our conversion in. So there's 1 kilogram on the bottom. Notice how the kilogram cancels out. 2.2 pounds goes on top. And now you should see that we've got pounds in the top right. It's where we wanted it to be. So we multiply across the top, divide by the bottom. 75 times 2.2, and then I know that it's dividing by 1, so we're just going to do 165 pounds. Okay, so 75 kilograms is 165 pounds. All right, so now we've got 0.6 kilometers to meters. So this is within the metric system. So if you want to, you can use the metric conversions that we talked about, which is King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk, and that's perfectly fine. Or you can remember the conversions. Typically, the conversion we do is like kilometers to meters. So 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. And then centimeters to meters, 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. Okay, so there's really only two. These are basically the two conversions you would need. Sometimes we go to millimeters, but not often. But if these are the two main ones that you'll need. So if you can commit those to memory, that would be helpful. So again, we're going to start in the top left with our current conversion, so 0.6 kilometers. And then we're going to bring down the kilometer, so 1 kilometer, and we're going to go to our first conversion, 1,000 meters. And then we've got it in meters, but that's not where we need to go because we need to go to centimeters, so we're going to put 1 meter on the bottom, bringing it down, and then we're going to end up with 100 centimeters on top. Now, we got centimeters at the top right, kilometers at the top left, kilometers cancel, meters cancel, and we're left with what we need to know. So we can do this, 0.6 times 1,000 times 100 divided by 1 times 1, and you would get 60,000 centimeters. Okay, so 60,000 centimeters are in 0.6 kilometers. And again, this should make some level of sense because a centimeter is smaller than an inch. So it makes sense that there's a lot of them when you're going from something that's really small to a kilometer, which is pretty big. Kilometer is about, the length of the school or so. So it makes sense that there's a lot of them. All right. This last one is a little bit tricky because we're trying to do two conversions at once. And so this is a little bit confusing. So if you have something that's on top of another one, like centimeters per second, meters per second, miles per hour, anytime you got one of those, the way you write it is you start with the number that you're using. So 35 centimeters, and then whatever's on the bottom goes in the bottom. We're going to do our train tracks again, but this time we're only going to do 1 unit at a time. So we're going to try to get from 35 centimeters to kilometers. And so we're just using what we saw a second ago, okay? So let's take a look at that. So 35 centimeters to seconds, we're going to go, let's see, first to meters. So we're going to put 100 centimeters on the bottom. That's a 1, by the way, 1 second on the bottom. So 100 centimeters, and then that's 1 meter. And then we're going to go to 1 meter to 1,000, whoops, that's not right, 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. Okay, so now we've got the kilometers on top, that's good, but we still got the seconds on the bottom, so we got to deal with that. So hopefully you remember this conversion that I gave you. There are 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. So the seconds are going to cancel. The centimeters are going to cancel. The meters are going to cancel. And notice that we're left with kilometers here. So we've got kilometers here and we got hour here. And the kilometers on top like it is here. And the hours on the bottom like it is here. And so we've got it where we need it. All right. So again, you're going to do this the same way. So you're just going to multiply across the top, 35 times 3,600, divided by what's on the bottom, 100 times 1,000, and you should be able to get your answer. So 35 times 3,600 divided by 100 times 1,000. And you would get 1.26 kilometers per hour. All right? So this is how you do dimensional analysis. And that's it. Hopefully that helps.